Welcome to Leadership of the Tarot. My name's Nicole. I'll be your guide on this journey. I'm so glad you've joined us. Let's jump in. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started with what I'm reading this week, as what I'm reading is connected to our card for the week. So this week, I am reading the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And this is a book that I continue to come back to time and time again because the way the authors present these 15 principles really invites us into rethinking, reflecting, being present with our leadership journey, learning lessons along the way, seeing how we can apply them, and then the next time that we're presented with a similar scenario or opportunity, we can act with a little bit more consciousness and awareness of how we want to show up. In the book, the authors refer to the drama triangle rather regularly throughout the chapters and throughout the principles. And I think that ties really nicely into the card that I pulled for this week. And so I pulled the card and was doing some reflecting on it. And this is the book that came up because I do think that it really invites us into understanding that our mindset and the way that we move through the world is critical, and particularly when we're thinking about what is my role in this. And so our card for the week is the Seven of Swords. And in the Seven of Swords, we have our protagonist here sneaking away from an enemy or an adversary's camp, having taken 5 of the swords, and there are 2 left. And I'll go to just reminding that there are many different ways to read the tarot, and so the way that I am reading it is my own experience of it and my own learning. So it's possible that you have encountered another reading of the tarot and of the Seven of Swords, and that reading is equally as valuable, in particular if you took something from it. So as I was thinking about the Seven of Swords and what it brought up for me and how it related to leadership, there were so many topics that I felt I could call into this reading. But what we do know is that one thing, one meeting, one newsletter doesn't need to be everything. So I wanted to really focus in on one component of leadership and what I think this card calls us into. So the Seven of Swords is a card in certain readings related to betrayal, to not telling the truth, to being sneaky. And I think there's a lot of this that happens in our workplaces, and also in our personal lives, in which we are practicing not telling the truth or being less than truthful with people, in which we are hiding things. And I like to tie it back to the drama triangle. So in the drama triangle, there are 3 roles: the victim, the villain, and the hero. And these are roles that we play out when we are in the midst of drama, when we are participating in drama, or when we are watching drama. We are the victim of a situation, we are being a villain, or, which those two seem pretty like, whoa, a victim and a villain. Well, and some people say, oh, but the hero, that sure seems great. But in my own experience, the hero is someone who causes just as much harm as the victim and the villain, because the hero takes away the opportunity for the victim and the villain to engage in real truthful conversation. So when we're talking about the Seven of Swords and betrayal, what it really brings me to, that I see play out, is when someone is bringing a problem in the workplace and they're having a challenge, but rather than going to the person who they're having the challenge with, they go to their supervisor, they go to a colleague, they go to someone on another team, They go outside of themselves, outside of their workplaces, to complain, to tell all of these problems that they're having. And they themselves are perhaps being the victim in the situation, and they're choosing to identify a villain. And what they're seeking is a hero, someone to come in and solve their problem for them. And what the Seven of Swords remind us is that to overcome these betrayals, these not telling the truth, we need to start to be truthful. We need to start to take head on the challenge that we're coming to and being honest with those around us. So what does that mean for us as leaders? If someone comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm having a challenge with this person. I want you to go tell them that I'm having a problem with them." Or you start to hear this gossip between, "Oh, these two people are really having a problem." What is your role as a leader? What is your role to step in and support? Should you say, "I'll go have a conversation with that person. I'll go take care of it"? What you're doing in that instance is you're playing the hero. You're feeding your ego in demonstrating that as the leader, you can solve everything. The challenge with that, of course, is that your retelling of this situation, your perception of what has happened, has been colored, has been impacted by you not being part of this drama. But you're inserting yourself into it. You're creating a triangle. So instead, as leaders, when we start to hear these challenges come up between colleagues, when someone brings something to us, we have a choice. We can choose to be a hero, or we can move into a more coach-like stance. And we can say, I'm willing to hear you out so that you can express yourself and you can make sure that your feelings are heard. And what can I do to make sure that you can have this conversation in a meaningful and a supportive way with this other person? Whether that's, again, you sitting here and rehearsing and having a space to be able to express what you need to express, so that when you do go to engage with this person, you can be your most authentic, caring self. Or perhaps if that person says, "This doesn't feel safe for me to go to that person on my own," you as the leader can say, "Well, perhaps I can provide some mediation. Either I mediate, or we find someone who has the skills to be able to mediate this conversation." But the goal the entire time is that the two people who are engaging in the betrayal or the non-truth telling or the sneakiness, the challenge here, those are the two people who need to be involved in that conversation. And so we have the choice to move ourselves out of the drama triangle and put ourselves as a support system so that this challenge can be solved by the two people involved. And maybe it won't be solved, but at least it will be told from two honest perspectives, two people who are actually involved in it, rather than adding someone who is not part of the story into the story. And again, there are many different things that the Seven of Swords brings to, but this is one that I think as leaders, it's really important that we stop these cycles of people going behind other people's backs to solve problems. And it starts with us. It starts with us behaving in that behavior. If I participate in that same behavior and I go to other people when I'm having a problem with someone, what that says in the culture of my organization is that that's an acceptable way in which we resolve challenges with one another. I'll also point out that when there is a power dynamic, that is something really important to stay mindful of and to be present with. So if I am engaging, if someone has a challenge with me and they're not telling me the truth, rather than saying, "Oh my goodness, that person's so bad, they're not telling me the truth." Well, if I have power in this situation, instead of saying that person is doing something to me, they're a problem too, they're making me the bad guy, what I'm invited into as a leader is to saying, how might I be participating in this system so that someone does not feel comfortable coming to connect with me? How might I be creating an environment where people don't feel safe to come and talk to me, to come and tell me the truth? What are some ways that I can start to change my behaviors, my actions, so that when someone does have a challenge, they can come talk to me, or I'm soliciting feedback consistently and regularly and soliciting meaningful feedback so that people feel like they can regularly tell me how they're experiencing me and how any sort of challenges they might be encountering with me. Those are two choices that as leaders we get to make, and that when people have less power in an organization, we can't always expect them to feel safe to be able to come and talk to us. So what can we do to really help create a balance and a culture where people do have the tools and the resources that they need to be able to create a space of honesty, so that we don't create cultures that are rooted in betrayal and going behind people's backs? If you enjoyed this content today, please go ahead and like this video. And if you're really feeling called to this work, go ahead and hit subscribe. And I'd love to have you join this community, and also hit the bell. That way, whenever new videos pop up, you'll be sure to be able to know that they're there. Thanks so much for joining today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.